Hey, hello friends. Thanks for joining me today. I am still working on this pen and ink illustration for the cover of a book, and I've had so many broadcasts dedicated to this project that I'm sort of running out of things to talk about. So this is going to be a very short broadcast. I don't need to repeat all the things I've said many times before, but I'll say a few things. And I know some of you didn't catch those earlier broadcasts. So again, let me explain what I'm doing. This is a cover. I did the inside illustrations of this book are in black and white. Here's an early mock-up. I've got a better one here somewhere, but there's an early mock-up of the cover. Let me see what else. I guess that's all. That's all I'll show you. Okay. I took several pictures of my daughter. This is not the one I'm using here, of course, but for the main character. Here's what I want to talk about. I am 30 hours into the cross-hatching phase, I would guess. I was hoping I could get this whole thing done in 30 hours, and there's no way. It's colored pen and inks. Again, this is all review, using rapidograph pens, mostly, and airbrush, liquid acrylic, on multiple layers of mylar. So what the mylar does, it allows me to do lines that are very, very, very subtle. For instance, here you'll see in the middle area here, this lightest area, it's completely blank. Well, in a while I want some real skew. You could tell I've been working. Look at those are an artist's fingernails, my friends. Dirty, and I hate dirty fingernails, but you're an artist. What can you do? Anyway, there'll be subtle branches and limbs breaking up, but those limbs will be done back here. I'll probably start on page 5 or 4 and then move forward. It's taken me, I've done a lot of work, as you maybe can see if you've been following me, to get to this point. It takes, in cross-hatching, it takes a lot of layers of cross-hatching to get to this level of darkness and this level of darkness. And even this is not quite dark enough yet. This is not. But I'm pretty happy with the way the values are going. As I'm proceeding with this job, I'm becoming more and more thankful that I did this very sophisticated charcoal drawing first, because this is dictating. I'm paying a lot of attention to this to get my values, and so you can see. See, this tree is not at all representative. I look at this. How dark does it need to be? Ooh, much darker. And this area in here, even though it's lovely, all needs to be darker, because I feel like this illustration works very well. And what makes it work are the patterns of light and dark, mostly dark, of course. Just a little bit of light in here, because I want it to look like this young lady, is coming from the darkness, so to speak, into the light. And I have a lot of work to do on her face, and her clothing her jeans are very, very close to completed, but even there, not quite. Some of the areas that I'm most happy with at the moment are way up here. See this dim twilight? And again, let me point out, this is not typical pen and ink stuff, right? This is not, when you say pen and ink, this is not what people think of. And it's part of the reason why I'm calling this whole project pen and ink state of the art. And again, I achieved this very subtle layers of color by drawing on this layer, on this level of the vellum, and on this, and here, and here, and even a little bit on page 5. For that area, I don't need 5, but for the middle zone, I'll be doing drawings all the way from level 6 up to level 1. But I called this broadcast, I'm calling it color mixing, quote unquote color mixing in pen and ink. And of course, I don't mean I'm mixing paints over here like on a palette. I'm not. Here's my, some of my tools over here. A bunch of the pens, a bunch of the liquid acrylics, and the spray bottle, and so forth. I'm using pure colors. Like, where's my magenta? There's a magenta. violet, blue violet, cerulean blue, viridian green. See, I'm using pure colors, bright colors in these pens most of the time. A little bit of gray and brown, but most of the work is being done with color. So here at the upper right-hand corner of this painting, in the last several minutes, I've got a red pen now that is functioning very well. And anybody that's ever used a rapidograph pen knows what I mean by that. Getting a pen to work really well for, to flow for a long time is key, because they tend to be kind of finicky. I just put this pen together about 20 minutes ago, and it's working very well. Why did I put it together? Because it wasn't working before that. So I took it apart, replaced some parts, and so forth. And it's working very well. It's got magenta in it. Okay, now, so let's go back to my black and white. Look how dark these limbs. I want in my pen and ink illustration, I want these limbs at the top of this big tree to be just that. You can hardly even see that, probably, can you? It's very subtle. So right at the moment, this is all way too light. Can you see that? This is way too light. So the way I get it darker is by, first of all, I did a layer of red. I can do more, but let me close it up for a minute. And of course, having just done a layer of red, all of this area is much too what? Color-wise. What is it? Yeah, way too red. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's the terminology that I want to acquaint you with in case you're not. Now, I use this terminology in my painting all the time. When I'm painting, pardon me while I tap this pen, there we go. The green has been working quite well. In my painting terminology, when a part of the painting is too red, then here's what I want to do. I want to anti-red it. All right, okay, you with me? So again, here's my terminology. I want to anti-red it. I don't say, I want to turn it green, because that's way too radical. I do not want to turn this green. I want to anti-red it or de-redify it. Are you with me? But of course, intellectually, I know what is you tell me, what is anti-red? What's anti-red? Correct. Green. So I am, in fact, going to color green, but my inner dialogue is not, now I'm going to color it green, because no, that would be a misnomer. That would be, that's really not accurate. The accurate is I'm going to make it less red. And of course, intellectually, I know how to do that. It's by adding green. So let me do that for a few minutes here. One little bit unusual aspect of this particular illustration is that it's a different kind of cross-hatching. All of my lines in this illustration, all the cross-hatching goes from about a 45 degree this way to a 45 degree this way. Nothing horizontal. That was my client's preference, my client's choice, and I feel like my client has the prerogative. He said, I don't like the tic-tac-toe look of, I think that was the word he used, or checkerboard. I think he said tic-tac-toe. I don't like the tic-tac-toe look of traditional cross-hatching. And I sort of scratched my chin and said, and I had the option of refusing to take the job. I don't like to disclose. I'll just say I'm being paid in the 5 figures for this job, okay? So it's not the kind of job that you necessarily turn down real quickly just because the client says, I don't like it. So, and the other thing is, the more important thing is, many times clients with restrictions or clients with opinions or clients with requirements actually forces us as the artist to expand our repertoires. I have never done, until, of course, the illustrations inside the book, same rule. They're all black and white, but it's cross-hatching all that goes like this, not 90 degree. So it has a slightly different look to it, and I'm actually, especially here on the cover, I'm actually quite taken. So that my client, with what some artists might consider an unreasonable perhaps they might say that, well, that's crazy. You shouldn't do what you shouldn't let a client dictate to you like that. Well, for enough money, I will. But here's the no, here's the main thing, that I've never done a color illustration before with that restriction. But you know what? I'm kind of liking it. It actually adds a softness to the crosshatching that regular traditional crosshatching doesn't have. In fact, I think it's the very thing that my client didn't like about traditional. He didn't like the harshness of the tic-tac-toe look. So I'm very happy to report that, doggone, my client has added to my repertoire of pen and ink illustration. I thought, I sort of think I've done everything possible in the world of pen and ink illustration. If you look at some of my other videos, I think you'd tend to agree. Go to my website, dannelsonart.com, and look at illustrations, and then open up the one album that is dedicated to pen and ink illustration. There's some pretty sophisticated stuff there. I would have thought I'd kind of done it all, but I had not, because I've never done this before. And this client, with his request, has actually pushed me into doing something, into making a discovery I would not otherwise have made. Isn't that cool? So that's a word of encouragement. Now that there were several decades where I wore the hat of an illustrator. That's how I made my living. That's what I did all day, every day, was illustrations, and it set me up very well. Yeah, you're right. Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to be honest about dealing with clients. I feel like you can either get an attitude on, or you can serve people. And it's just usually better to serve people. Kind of get off your high horse. And, my initial reaction was like, oh, I don't know. That sounds kind of weird. But as I'm saying, it's many times, it's clients with requests that forces you into new realms. Anyway, so now that I'm in most of my life, as you probably, if you follow me at all, most of my life is now spent as a quote-unquote fine artist. The difference between an illustrator and a fine artist is, when you're an illustrator, you're going to get paid. When you're a fine artist, you might get paid someday when somebody buys your painting. I'm being a little bit facetious, of course, but so I have learned a new twist on the old pen and ink crosshatching that I am quite happy about. So while I've been talking, I've been anti-redding, making this the opposite of red. And now you and I look at it and I say, well, yeah, man, you sure did make it, much less red. Now I think it's too green. And if you were to think that, I'm inclined to agree with you, by the way. So what does that mean I'm going to do? Well, now I might anti-green it. But of course, having done a layer of red and a layer of green, I'm not just going to go back and forth between those two colors. Although, look, just having done red, look how much closer this value is now to my target. Much, much closer. It's like so close that I need to start thinking very carefully about what comes next. And I'm hoping you can see this. Let me see if I can get you in real close to part of the illustration. Can you see that part of the tree? Try to avoid the glare. See this area in here where I'm playing around almost in a fantasy-like manner with making different parts of the bark. Blue, indigo blue, dull green, yellow, red, purple, yellow, orange. See, just for fun, just pure fun. And I'm doing the same thing, but not. Of course, this is the most intense area, but over here, same idea. All these fun, little bit of green here, but then it goes up to brown and so forth. I am really having a lot of fun. I should point out one more technique that I've been using in this illustration. That is, when I and I'm doing as much, by the way, as much work as I can on the top layer. Why? Because that gives me the most control. Partly because I can then do this. Now I don't know if that purple is. I'm coming in here with a scratch with a tool from the world of Scratchboard, and scratching off paint. So I'm doing, and I want to do this. This will be one of the last things that I do is come in here and scratch. Now, and again, having done a little bit of scratching right there, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the last word or the last touch. I'm trying to get my yellow orange. Forgive me while I tap again. There we go. So after scratching, I can come back and do more cross-hatching on top of that scratching and make it, warm it up to make it more yellow, because I don't really want that right there. I don't want that extremely white. I want it light, but I don't want it white. So I just made it more yellow again. Does that make sense? So this is a real, control freaks paradise here. This whole technique. In fact, having done that, I feel like now, yeah, I want more yellow back here. And again, it's a warm yellow that's in this pen, not a cool yellow. I was using cool yellow. I've used it very, 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 very little in the illustration. Anyway, I hope you find that entertaining and informative. I'm looking right here. Yes, I have a purple. Let me do just a little bit more up here. So I've got violet purple in the pen, and I want to come up here and do some details in the bark, and then a little bit of what I call scribble hatching, which is the pen draws in both directions. Here's scribble hatching, right? As opposed to the pen just draws in one direction. So it's quicker and messier and perfectly appropriate when you've already got this much ink on the illustration. Does that make sense? And again, the color in the pen right now is purple. I mentioned this yesterday. Some of you are saying, my goodness, I hope you're saying, if you're paying attention, you're saying, my goodness, that's a time consuming. Yes, it's going to take me probably over 40 hours of scratching, 40 hours of drawing. That doesn't include, all this and all the other design work. That's just in the illustration. And every time it typically is a young person who says, oh, golly, I would never do that much work. I said yesterday, I'm repeating myself now, the little cash register in my brain goes, ka-ching, job security for me. That's right. The reason I'm getting paid to do this is because I'm actually willing to do it, where some people could not at all force themselves. And I understand that. By the way, kudos to one of my dear friends, David Stickle. He is a fellow, what's the word? Extreme realist. This is not extreme realism, but this is extreme drudgery, extreme patience, right? Just got it. Looked on it. Saw on his Facebook. He's won all kinds of awards. Wonderful guy. Lives not too far from me in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Wonderful guy. And just saw that he got fourth place in an international. He's won first place in all kinds of stuff in America, but I understand in Italy, first honorable mention in a watercolor competition, international watercolor competition, and thank you, Fadi. Yes. I absolutely will. I will do a video about maintaining them. Fadi, the answer is you can only do so much, and I will show you all the tricks that I know. In fact, I have bits of that already on a couple videos. I showed you cleaning one yesterday. Go back to yesterday's video, Daily Art Adventure 408, I think it was yesterday. And alas, for those of you who were watching yesterday, you actually saw the death of a nib. And I started to say it's not simply the $15 that the new nib costs. The fact is I can't get it locally. I have to order it. So Amazon If I had ordered it yesterday, it would be here by tomorrow, but I didn't do that. But yeah, they do wear down when you're doing this kind of work anyway. And yes, the Rotarings are maybe even more fussy because I think the rapidograph pen they have the longest history of manufacturing this kind of pen and have learned how to troubleshoot the most. Denatured alcohol, Fadi, is one of the secrets. Denatured alcohol, but even that needs to be used in moderation because it turns out the denatured alcohol actually eats the plastic. So it's not like you can soak it in denatured alcohol overnight, because when you come back, you'll find that your pen is warped, the tiny little parts in there. But denatured alcohol is good for cleaning ink and liquid acrylics out of the pens. But yes, Fadi, thank you for that suggestion. I will indeed. So let me just do a little bit more here. Again, so you saw me when I brought you in today, I had a heavy layer of red, then I did a heavy layer of green, which, by the way, produced a very neutral tone. But now I'm coming in with purple, which is even further neutralizing the color, which is what I want. I don't want a lot of bright color up here. Another thing, people say this is way too much work. Why do I do it? Well, I do it because, and I know you can't see this probably, but when I look at this, see, my eye sees red lines, green lines, purple lines, blue lines, yellow and orange lines. And the visual part of my brain just does flip-flops, just goes, oh, that is so cool looking, which is my definition of good art. It's cool looking. That's what good art is. Art is stuff that's made to look at. Good art is stuff that our brain goes, oh man, that is so cool. I'm using, the common American vernacular. But I'm very happy, and I'll show you one more time before I go. So here's my target, see? And I'm very close. This is a number 8.5. This is number 10. This is 8.5. And I'm very close to 8.5 there, which shows me that I'm approaching finished there. All of this tree up here still needs to be darkened, so I'll probably do it just like I did here. A whole bunch of red, keeping in mind that it's a little bit more light coming from the left. A whole bunch of red, a whole bunch of green, and then probably some purple. That combination worked really well. So that's what I'm calling color mixing in pen and ink. Thank you for your comments. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and leave comments. I appreciate it. And share this if you have some artist friends that would like to see what I'm doing. Appreciate it very much.